Hello everybody, and welcome to Film and Video Visual Effects with Fusion. And this is a great, we have a 2-week session that we're doing for this one, and we're also planning to do some more kind of individual videos that we'll just be posting that won't be live but pre-recorded on Fusion as well in the coming months. So really excited to start off with this introduction to film and video visual effects. What does it mean? A little bit of history. And for week 1, we're going to look at the idea of Fusion as how it's built in with Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve software directly as a workplace tab. And then next week we're going to look at Fusion Studio, the total software, and go through that. So really give you a great intro on how to use the software, how to get going with it, and to move along. And it's a great amount, it's an amazing tool, and we're going to have a lot of fun going through this stuff today. So just want to thank all our partners in making this project happen. We have the Canada Council for the Arts. We also have our library partners. We have the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. Now on that note, what's really exciting is, so with the library partners, we have digital arts computer workstations built that we've prepared and loaded with software. So it comes with Fusion Studio software directly, and it also the Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve Studio. Now the Studio software is typically $400 Canadian to purchase, and you then have access to Studio and Fusion Studio. So Resolve Studio, Fusion Studio comes with the same license. Now, if you don't have that Studio software, you can just download Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve free, totally free. It's for Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. So it's free. You can put on a desktop, laptop, and off you go. And Fusion is built into it. So that's what we're going to look at today, is that built-in Fusion that you can do right away on your home computer. And then next week, we're going to look at Fusion Studio, specifically the standalone software that has a little bit more to it, but very similar to what's built in Resolve. And that is something that you can always consider purchasing, but it is what's built into our digital arts computers at the libraries, at the partner libraries. So that's the really fun part, is that you can then access Fusion Studio directly at the libraries, the library partners that we talked about. So that's really fun. So let's look at, what will we look at today? So we're going to look at film and video visual effects history. So, essentially visual effects and the concept of visual effects has been around since the beginning of film. So we want to look at that, a bit of the history. We're going to look at Blackmagic Design Fusion software. What is it? Overview of the user interface. What is this node-based workflow? And it's an ongoing through line. So if you've been taking some of our software courses on Blender, so 3D animation in Blender, it's node-based. Color grading in Blackmagic Resolve is also node-based, so you can get familiar with that idea. So nodes are basically it's a way of working with kind of blocks of control tabs. Instead of it being just on a timeline, it becomes like in a graphic interface of being able to visually show what you're doing in layers. So it's kind of it's like a atomic structure, if you will, like it kind of branches out into that. So using the Fusion tab in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve, that's the next thing we're going to do, and then green screen compositing. So we'll look at some demonstrations of how we can get into some compositing, and that's really one of the key things, is green screen work, compositing in general, bringing two shots together. So different ways of doing it, but we really want to look at that green screen thing, because that's a very common, important aspect of any kind of film and video visual effects work. Okay, so film and video visual effects history. Before we get into any kind of modern current software, we got to remember that film and video visual effects, or VFX, it has an extremely long history, and it existed essentially since the beginning of filmmaking. So way back, 1895, film is created, and people immediately in filmmaking, they're trying to figure out how to make fantastic worlds using concepts from theater in terms of staging and visual effects. So George Méliès directed A Trip to the Moon in 1902, and it's, if you haven't seen it, it's a great film to watch. You can get it. I think there's a lot of sources online. You can watch it. You can even get it on like through Apple as well. They did a restoration. It's quite a beautiful film, but it's filled with visual effects and compositing, because essentially it's about a group of people trying to go and travel to the moon. And you can see in this kind of a shot, this is a person with a rocket in the eye, and it's ends up being composited with, through a telescope. And so these kinds of, they're visual effects. They might seem primitive or simple, but a lot of these things we still use to this day. So techniques such as double exposure or bringing two images together, this is still being done. Sometimes it's more in a post-production scenario, but it's still being done. Split screen type shots are done like more than we realize, and a lot of basic film and video visual effects that are started back in 1900 are still used to this day. So we can always still go back to that stuff. So, and that's kind of an important thing we want to think about, is like there's the idea of what you can do in camera, and there's what can you do in post-production. So there's things that you can do in camera, and then there's things that you also need to combine shots, right? So split screens, for example, I could be on one half of the screen here, and we can then shoot me, and it would have to be probably a little bit of a wider shot. But if you did a shot of myself, and then you did another shot of someone else next to me, or me again dressed in another outfit, I can have two of me sitting next to one another, and it would look fine. And all we would do is we would split screen it and composite it together in video editing software. And that's really how that would work, is to bring it together. So that's the real fun part, is that it can be a bit of in camera, a bit of post, and we make it work. Okay, so modern visual effects, we get into things like this, like Wonder Woman. These advancements have really changed how things go and how we need to think about things. But essentially, we still have to think about a couple main ideas. How are we going to achieve a visual effect? And what do we need that visual effect to do to help tell our story? So this is where it really comes down to it. As digital artists, do we really need to do that visual effect to make it enhance the story? Or are we doing a visual effect just to show off? Is it just a fancy piece of an effect that's not necessary? So for example here, Wonder Woman, she's crashing through glass and things are flying around. That's part of the story. So she needs to fly through and do that. So that's part of the story, to come in and do that. I would assume it's essential, but that's the whole idea. So if you have a character that's floating, that takes balloons and floats away in the air, that's part of the story, the balloons floating away. Now, if you just have a character flying for no reason, why? So you're always trying to think about how is it going to help tell the story and work on in that manner. Okay, so the advancements now, we have 3D modeling and animation. So not just in camera and this kind of initial double exposure type things. So double exposure in the past would essentially be filming something, then you can reverse the film and expose again. So you could film, let's say, like half the film, reverse it, and then expose on it again, and get that double exposure to bring in two shots. And now we're doing that in editing, in layering, and then we can do opacity shifts or cropping to create double exposures. So that's kind of going back to what that would be. So now 3D modeling, animation, we have tools. If you've joined us before in classes on Blender, there's also tools like Maya, 3D animation, 3D modeling tools. So that's the kind of advancements. We can create anything now. And that's what we're seeing in 3D animation, 3D visual effects, and that kind of idea. Now, compositing, it's essentially part of most video editing software. So, whether you're using Premiere, Avid, Media Composer, Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve, it's part of that software. Then there's also advanced compositing, and that becomes possible with more specialized software such as Fusion, where you can get into some more advanced type of compositing. But essentially the green screen aspect is something that can be done in post-production. It could also be done in in camera, or as you're going. It could be done live. So we're used to use projects or programs doing that. For example, I can put my name up here. It's done live, and that's done with it's a mat of my name, and it shows up, and I can key it live and then take it off, right? And that's done live, just like a news broadcast. You can see the logo is also up. That's live and it's generated, and it's a composited element. That's what we're trying to do. So it's the same idea with a green screen. We can just see our logo and not see everything else behind it, right? So it's not covering the screen, just as my name shows up, and it's just there. So we're used to seeing these kinds of live effects as well. So effects are part of everything now. News, you're seeing it happen live, or something like this workshop, you're seeing some effects happen live as well as we go. So, it's such a big part of our life. But you can see here in this before and after. Before, green screen in the background behind Wonder Woman, and then after, you no longer see the green screen. It's all been composited together with a different background, different elements, particles, all this kind of stuff is happening to make it work. Okay, so software overview, Blackmagic Fusion Studio. So as I mentioned before, part of the Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve Studio license, it comes with a built-in workspace tab, right? So this Fusion Studio, if you have Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve Studio, you also can access Fusion Studio. So if you already have Resolve Studio, you can have Fusion Studio standalone. It comes with it. It's the same license. Now, if you don't have the studio version of Resolve, you can access Fusion in the Workspace tab in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve free version. So just not to complicate things, but Fusion is available either as a tab within Resolve, and that's either studio or free. But there's also the standalone version, and that's what we're going to be getting into next week. So we want to introduce what can you do for free with your existing software, and then we'll look at what can you do with Fusion Studio at our library digital art stations. So Fusion's a powerful VFX node-based software that can perform compositing, 3D visual effects, lighting, and almost anything one can imagine. You can import footage, 3D models, and more to work with in Fusion. So you can bring in your video footage directly and work with it in Fusion. Now, you might be familiar with After Effects, but this software, Fusion, is a little more like Blender in the way it looks and the interface. So I'm sure all of you have heard of Adobe After Effects, and Fusion is that idea of a similar type of software that can be used to work with in visual effects in film and video. So how does it work? Here is a little bit on the software. So I just brought up. You can go directly to blackmagicdesign.com, and you can then see, here's a little bit about Fusion 17. So you can see here, these are the nodes. They're just giving you kind of a background layer of what the nodes are. So you have different elements, and they come in, and you're merging elements. So one by one, you merge, you bring it together, and you make a whole mix of everything. So here's, you can do different graphics. You can GPU accelerate some of the films that have been using film and television that have used Fusion. And then the node workway is illustrated here as well. There's all the different tools that you can use. So highlights, hot spots, film grain you can add, glows, light rays, color correction, broadcast graphics. And here's things like green screen. You can do tracking and all these kinds of elements. And then you can also work in virtual reality and 3D. So there's a panoramic viewer. So you can work in 360 VR environments. and you can wear headsets so you can see, what it looks like, the 360 world. And you can import and render entire 3D models. So if you have worked on something in Blender, you can then import the model into Fusion directly. There's deep pixel compositing, so it just gets more and more complicated. You can do scripting and automation, so you can accelerate that as well. And then GPU, so graphics processing unit, the GPU can be enhanced, so you can add additional GPUs to make rendering a lot faster and so on. Fusion Connect, you can work in DaVinci Resolve and Avid Media Composer, so you can connect directly in there. And then you can collaborate with large teams and so on and so forth. So tons of stuff here. You can go through all this stuff on the website, but just to give you an idea of what the software is like. So that's a little bit on the software itself. Okay, so Fusion user interface. So I'm just going to talk about it, but the main thing is once I show it, it'll make a lot more sense. There's a media in and out with tool nodes in between. So basically you have a media in, that's your image, so it can be a still image, video image, a 3D model, media in. So that's the input of what you're showing. Then there's a media out, so it's going to that. And then there's nodes in between. So we can have multiple media in, so like layers of media. We have a node tools in between, and then there's a final output that you need to use to output that image. And sometimes that can be broken and we don't see the output. So that's always a key that we'll go over, is making sure that your output is connected to in this pipeline of the nodes. So tools, they add a specific type of effect. So in Fusion, we add tools to add different effects to the media, right? And then we can play back in real time. And that's just for the kind of basic things we're working on in some green screen compositing and in that kind of way. But where you might need to render is if it gets more complex. More complex effects require rendering, right? So, and then in Resolve, what we're going to demo today, in the actual editing software, you simply click on the Fusion tab, then you enter that workspace, and then you return back to the Edit tab, and then you can see the results of your work. So you're working directly in your timeline by putting in Fusion compositing or Fusion effects, and then working in the Fusion tab, and then bringing it back and forth. So it's a really fantastic and fast way to work. Okay, so let me just get going here with some of the, let's go into the software here. I'm just going to get my hard drive fired up here a little bit. So, how does this work? So let's get into the Fusion tab in Resolve. So just waiting for my hard drive to fire up here. Oops. And just going to relaunch the software here. Okay, so I'm just going to relaunch the software. Just had a little glitch there in loading it. But so I'm going to just launch the software. So this is the Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve Studio 17. I'm going to load this up, and we're going to get going on this idea. So I have a green screen demo. Let's go right to that. It's going to load up here. Okay. So if you've joined me before, we did a whole green screen workshop in terms of how to film green screen and how to composite it. And so just in terms of the tabs, we're going to be looking at things today in Resolve here. And you can see, I'm just going to zoom in down here. So we have the Edit tab down here, and then you'll see there's something called the Fusion tab. So these are the workspace tabs, so we can go through in Resolve. But Fusion itself is a standalone software. Again, what we're going to look at next week. But today we want to look at how can we work in Resolve because that gives you access to the free Fusion tools, the Fusion software within Resolve. So that's our goal today. Okay, so last time when we did this this workshop, we had some shots, green screen shots. So this is what they look like, just straight green screen, shot a couple character shots. Then I shot some backgrounds, also known as background plates. And I did one that was out of focus, one that was in focus. And the idea was, how can you shoot these elements, these green screen elements, right? So we want nice, bright green. You can see there's a green screen, there's their characters here, and then how do we bring them together, right? So this is what we can end up with. Now, the big difference here is by putting, having a background that's in out of focus, it makes it look like there's a shallow depth of field, and then our characters are in front. Okay, so let's replicate how we can, how do we do this? Okay, so we kind of see the end. So here's, again, the full one and the out of focus background. So two backgrounds, in focus, out of focus. And with here, I'm going to get rid of the blur. So just so we can see it, here's the sharp and the blurred. And I think, preference-wise, I like to see the background out of focus. So just something to consider when you're shooting these elements. So these kinds of elements can be shot directly by you. Again, if you're part of the library membership in the Blue Mountains Public Library or Wasaga Beach Public Library, you can take out the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera and you can shoot some of this footage yourself. In terms of green screens, you can use any kind of green material. It doesn't have to be a specific green, but and they're really low cost. You can buy green screens for like $20 as well. But any kind of green material, you can also work with blue. So, but typically green tends to work a little bit better. But if you have a lot of green in your shot, you'd want to use blue, and that's kind of the big difference between the two. Okay, so let's take the shot now. So if we want to bring in this shot, so I'm just going to bring in the shot right here. So you can see now I have green, and it's on top of the other. So it's green and background, but I'm not seeing the background, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Fusion tab. It's going to take me here. So now what you can see is these are the nodes. So I have media in, media out. If I click on this, it breaks that, and now I have no media out. So it's totally black. How do we fix this? We take this line, we bring it over here, and then voila, you can see it's a media out, right? Back to the edit. All I need to do is work in layers here. And this is why it's a little bit easier in Resolve, and it's a lot faster to get going in Resolve with green screen because you can just see it as you go. So right away what it's done is I've opened it in Fusion, so it has these three little stars here. And this means that it's a Fusion clip is what it's called. So I can open up in Fusion, and now what I can do is in the middle here, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say add a tool. So what kind of tools do we need? You're going to see there's tons of tools. You're going to get familiar with this really quick. So you got to think about what we're doing. So there's 3D, there's a browser, there's VR, blurs, we can add color work, compositing, dissolves, merges, right? So merging is taking two different shots, merging them together, and all this on and on and on. But what we need to do is we're going to work on something that's called matte work. And that's where green screen work comes into play. It's just matte work, which is green screen at play. What I like to use is this Ultra keyer, and that has some of the best tools in terms of what I need to do. So the next thing I need to do is figure out what background color am I going to get rid of. So I'm going to choose this eyedropper, and I'm going to click that green and hit OK. And you can see now everything in the background is gone. But you can see it's kind of coming through here as well. So I just want to see, what I can do to help improve that. So we're going to look at some of the settings here, and look at the spill suppression, if we can fix that a little bit. And red cyan. And we want to try to make that as opaque as possible. So we're going to look at the matte here. Let's look at, okay, so the gamma is helping a little bit more. And we're going to play around. So you basically just need to play around with these a little bit. So just thresholds. What are we doing to try to get rid of any of that kind of suppression there? So let's do like a Gaussian. Look at our image here, spill suppression. Okay, well done. So spill suppression helps get rid of a little bit of the green kind of overlay. So here you go. Now we've done a decent job. Look at that. So we've got the green away, and we now have our characters in the front of this background, and that's as fast as that can be. And we'll play it back. And that looks pretty nice. Right, so that's the sharp one. And now what I'm going to do is, here's the great thing. So I'm going to just copy and paste this whole clip, put it right on top here. And now you can see the difference between the in focus and the out of focus background. And again, I like that out of focus background. It looks more like a shallow depth of field, and it's natural. How do you succeed in these kinds of green screen shots is if you're doing your own. So I shot these myself. I shot a background, I shot the characters, but the characters are standing on a wooden crate. So that wooden crate seems like it's kind of something that could be part of that background. So you want to try to work with this kind of compositing, is that your elements that you're shooting on green screen plus the background should be cohesive, and they should work together so that it looks natural and it's part of it. Lighting is part of it too, so you can see there's lighting from the side of the characters to the woodshed as well. So it looks relatively natural, like it belongs, and it's not weird looking. So all of that's really, really key. How do you make it look cohesive, natural, and part of the image? So now what I've done too is, if you don't want to shoot things, you can find tons of things online. There's a lot of different green screen elements and things. So I've grabbed some things such as this shot here. Oops, we're kind of stuck here now. Let me just get out of this. I just got to get my hard drive to wake up again here. There we go. Okay, so this is a green screen pre-made for you that I just, it's a free like sample, and then you can purchase like a larger resolution. So you can get these kinds of sampling footages to then work with. Here's a green screen on a phone, right? So if you don't have the, if you don't have a camera, or you don't want to have to shoot things, you can get these kinds of samples. This is a man and woman meet on a green screen. So we're going to look at how we can composite some of these things together. And then what I did is I got some background footage, so some waves, raft going down a river, and all of these kinds of elements can be added and composited together, right? So these are a lot of free stock footage, or sample stock footage that you can get in a lower resolution and then work on it from there. So what I did was I did this one. Here's like a plate demo. So this is what I did. So this is the mountains plus the water, and I composited them together. So this is kind of what it ended up like. And it's kind of cool. It's two different shots put together, and I'm just augmenting what is there in reality. So this is what it's like in reality. I actually have a bit of a crop on here first, and we'll explain why we have that crop. So just under the inspector here, I've done a bit of a crop, right? So that's the raft floating, right? So we did that. and otherwise we have the top like that. Now you can see there's a bit of spill through the green screen there. So what you can do is you can literally just crop off images to get rid of any kind of spill. So you can, it's called a garbage mat, and you're cropping a shot to get rid of parts that you don't need when you're compositing them together. So it's a great way to bring the two together. Okay, so how do we do this? Let's start from scratch. So I'm going to take the green screen element, ocean waters, with the green screen. So you can see it's totally, right now it's opaque, right? Like the green is green. Background footage, I'm going to do the raft going down the water. And I'm just going to make them the same length. So this is what we do. We just layer them one on top of the other in Resolve. Then I'm going to go to the Fusion tab here. Go to Fusion. It's going to open this up. And again, you can see that that's our shot there. The green screen's there. So we already kind of know now what to do. We're going to right click in the middle here, add tool, go to matte, go to our Ultra keyer, and we're going to click on the background tool, color, and we're going to sample that green. And you can see that's a pretty standard full green there. And voila, we have our matte separation now. So our Ultra keyer got rid of the green. We now just have the blue water. And we can also look now at spill suppression. I have a little bit of that coming through there. We'll go back to our edit, and there we go. Now I can see that raft coming through a little bit, and this is what I was talking about, is that now I can go to the crop, and I'm going to turn the top off here. And what I can do is we can garbage mat this. So we can just say, hey, let's get rid of the bottom, because we're not going to see that. Okay, so, and that's kind of a hard mask, it's called. So now what I can do is I can go to softness. Then I can make that edge soft. So it kind of trickles down. Turn this back on and look at that. Now we don't see the raft. And we were able to do what's called a garbage mask. So just getting rid of an area in the bottom background plate that we don't really want or care to have. Turn that back on, and we have our composited image. So now we have ocean water with the mountains in it. So we've created a different kind of water atmosphere than this original atmosphere. We've made it into this, right? So we're, maybe that's important, like the water levels are going up in this particular mountain area, so we need to bring in water to composite that shot together. So again, you can take a total different shots, but as long as the elements make sense, that's really important, more than just the effects work on its own. It's like, do these two elements work together? How will they work together? Do they work together? And then you can go on from there. So now in this particular shot, if we take this shot on its own and we go to Fusion, we can play with this, and let's add some other type of tool. So let's add maybe something like film. We can add film grain, for example, and you can see it added a lot of different grain. We can change the size down, make it a little bit less rough. And there we go. So now we have a little bit of grain in that image. And you can see now the real time gets a little bit more bogged down in terms of being able to play it back. And so we can bring it together. So we have a little bit of grain on the top there. We just want that image. And that could be just to try to match maybe what the grain is on the bottom, right? So we can do simple things like that. If we don't like it, we simply go back to, so we just want to have the layer on, that the only layer that we want to work on in Fusion. So I turn the other one off, right? And what I can do is I can right click, I can replace tool, and let's go to something like a glow instead. So now it's saying, do you want to replace film grain with glow? And you go, yes. So now we added a glow, and we can make this vignette itself. We can play with the spreads. We can make things really shiny regions. So there's all these tools we can play with in terms of, we can colorize the glow. So we can make the glow kind of blue, right? Like we can, so now we've added a glow. So it kind of makes it look like the water's reflecting onto the mountain a bit, right? So that's how we can play with the images. Really quick, and that's the great thing about the nodes. And right now we're just doing nodes in between. So we're just adding like that one node, media in, putting a node tool, and then media out. Next, we're going to look at merging and kind of multiplying the layers and working on some different things. So we can start to bring in different pieces and compositing with a few multiple layers of video. But you can see how quickly we can work in this Fusion tab. So we're able to composite, add that, and go on from there. Okay. So now let's go into something else. Let's do another one. Let's create a new one, and we will create a phone demo. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is let's take the green screen element of the phone, right? I'm just going to bring that down here. Okay, I'm going to put on video 2, so the green screen's on top, and I'm going to put a background underneath it. So the green screen will disappear, and I'm going to put a background underneath it. Background footage, let's put this Matterhorn shot here, and I'm just going to make it so it's the same size. Okay, so now we know the drill. We go to Fusion. We're going to be experts in this green screen compositing right away. So, and now here I'm going to hit Add Tool, Matte, Ultra Keyer, right? So we got that. Background, get our eyedropper, choose the green, hit OK, and it removed the green of the phone. I'll go over here to the edit, and you can see now the phone is showing that Matterhorn footage, right? But it's a background, and this is the great thing about working in Resolve. Now we can do things that are less processor heavy. So again, you can be working on a laptop, and that kind of way. And I can transform this a little bit. So I can zoom out a little bit on this clip. And then I can also position it so it can be in a different spot on the phone. And I can rotate it a little bit so it's kind of in line with the phone. And this is how quickly I can bring in this kind of composited work. And then you can go to like color tools, you can change and work on that. But look at this, now we've put it into a better spot. So this person's holding a phone, and we've composited, we've done a green screen removal, and we've composited the Matterhorn image right on the phone. So as if the person's playing it back on a phone. This is a very common situation that you have stuff playing back on phones or that. So you can put, simply you can put a green screen up on your phone. So you can take, import like a green screen image, have the phone play that like full screen, like as if it's a photo. And then you can simply replace elements on any kind of screen that you shoot with different backgrounds. So you can, composite it out, get rid of the green, and put it in a background. And that's, a quick way to work with something like that. So that's great. Okay, so let's move along. Let's get another one done here. So now I want to do is something fun with people on beach. So we have a couple shots, green screen elements. So we have friends, man and woman meet. And bring that shot in. So again, I'm putting it on video 2, they meet. Okay, and we're gonna get some sort of a background, waves reaching the beach. We're gonna put that there. And we'll just get a little bit, we're just gonna make it the same length of the shot, so we're working with the same thing. So here we go. Let's go to Fusion, and we're gonna right click, add tool, matte, Ultra Keyer, go to our background color, eyedrop, select, okay. Look at that. So we got a nice clean matte of the people. Go to our edit, and now we have them at a beach meeting. Right, so it doesn't look too bad at all. So that's a pretty cool tool. So because we're in Resolve, again, this is why I like this ability to work in Resolve as well, is because we've keyed them, we can also go to color. And I can work on this shot, and I can play with, maybe adding some more warmth to the shot. I can add some more contrast to the shot. Maybe they're, kind of, they're backlit a little bit, and again, play with the warmth there, bring down the gamma a bit. And it really starts to make them look like they really belong there, right? I can now go to this beach shot. I can also make it a bit darker. And all of a sudden the composite's looking a lot more realistic because they look a bit warmer, like they're at this sun, at this beach, right? And I'm not saying that beach shot's necessarily the best. Again, these are just free demo clips that I downloaded just for demoing purposes, testing purposes. But you can see that water shot, maybe the long grass is a little bit disturbing or distracting in there. But it works, right? We're able to composite people totally shot on a studio with a green screen in the background with them being on a beach, right? So again, how do we do this? We brought in layer 2. Video 2 is the man and woman meeting on a green background. Video 1 is our beach shot. We color graded it. We went into Fusion. We added the ultra keyer to bring in this background separation, and we're able to remove the green screen perfectly. And it looks really nice and clean. I'm not really seeing anything missing. And the composite together is quite nice. There's nothing weird about it. It looks nice. Now, sometimes what will happen is some spill suppression might be necessary, as we saw with the raft. So then I can do a little bit of the garbage mat work, so I can crop out different elements. And we can do things like that. Now, look at the beauty of this kind of work. We can actually then take, because they're meeting, and let's say I need to replace maybe the person on the left, right? I can totally remove this person, right? So that's how quickly I can just remove a person from the shot, and I could bring another person in there, right? So we can do that. We can then take, let's go back to our first shot. We can maybe put this shot in there. And go to Fusion. Right click, add tool, matte, ultra keyer. And again, just get that, find that eyedropper of the green. Okay. Okay, so, that could be the thing, is like maybe, he meets the goat instead of the person. Right? They do hug, so you can't really separate them cleanly. But let's say from this part on, this could work. And again, now, because I'm working in DaVinci Resolve, I can totally, zoom in. I can position. Right. And we're just going to work with some of the spill suppression here. What did we do? We played with the gamma here. Okay, that's a little bit better, just to kind of clean that up. Okay, so then he can be meeting these two characters on the beach, right? So that's how you can quickly layer up 1, 2, 3 shots together and green screen composite them, and then it's just a matter of getting having it shot in the right angles and working that way. So you can remove someone from one shot, add someone from the third shot, and all of a sudden we're into 3 layers, two green screen composites, and keying it, the matte work there, and then bringing in the background and working with that. So that's how simply we can work in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve with the tabs and working in that manner, you can keep going from there. So what we're going to do, and then if we're happy with anything, we can export this. You can see the real-time playback is quite nice. I'm not having too much of a delay, and we're able to do that. So this was how we could add a green screen shot of a person meeting with another person. We can go back to, if we want to, we can just go back to this shot. I'm going to just reset it, and then it brings everyone back. They're all meeting, and these characters are meeting. But I thought this was quite a nice, quick composite of 2 people meeting on the beach, totally shot in a studio, and bringing them onto the beach with the Ultra Keyer in Fusion, right? So all we did was select that shot, go to Fusion, and then we did the Ultra Keyer in this as a node, as a tool. Now, what's really important here, I think, is the ability that you can shoot people in a studio space, then bring shots somewhere else. With this whole situation right now, protocols of production work, safety, and so on, it might be a great tool or a great way for you to do it, is that maybe your actors can be filmed on a green screen. You can then go get shots, or you can purchase shots from city backgrounds or other kind of stock footages out there, so that you can work a film in without having to travel. So it's not just that it's necessary for the story, but this visual effects work could be a way for you to achieve a film that might not be possible to do with travel or any kind of travel restrictions or protocols. So these 2 people are meeting at a Paris cafe. You can't get to Paris right now, but you can buy stock footage of a Paris cafe, put that in the background instead of the beach, and then they're meeting, and you shot the people here, you filmed them on a green screen, you composited them in Fusion, and then brought them together. So it could be a great tool to work in that way. Okay, so what else did we do? We did our phone. We added green screen, we added the Matterhorn shot into the phone. Really great way, a very typical scenario that you need to bring phones into green screen work, composite them, put different elements on the phone. Usually we're changing that kind of stuff in filmmaking. And then we did the green screen, let's see, this plate demo here. So we have the ocean water replaced the raft that was originally there. So that's what's originally there, and we made it into this with a blue glow. So just a couple layers. And so we did this work here in the Fusion Ultra Keyer, and then by turning video 2 off, we can then access that second shot. And in Fusion, we added the glow, and we made it blue. We colorized the glow to make it blue, so that it looks like the ocean's reflecting onto the top there. And then we also just did our basic green screen demo here, which is putting these 2 characters that we shot in front of a wooden shed as they stand on a wood box. So, from there, so you can see how effectively we can quickly composite things together with green screen in Fusion. And that's all in the DaVinci Resolve software. So I'm using Studio. You can do this in the free software, same tools in Fusion, and it's all available for free. So everything we did today, you can access for free. You can get footage out there to demo with, or you can go and film your own green screen footage. If you have questions about green screen filming, we have a great video that we already have on our YouTube channel of a past workshop that we did with green screen filming, how to do that, how to achieve that, and how to put up a green screen and put up as flat light as possible. That's the key. A phone, you can just call up a green screen. There's some tools online, but you can just take a picture of a green element and pull it up as a photo, or just download a green screen for your phone use. That works as well. And that's it. So again, thanks for joining us this week. I hope you can join us next week, where we're going to get into the Fusion Studio, the whole standalone software. We're going to look at some tracking elements, some things we can do with tracking, and some more of the node work and merging. So we can get into that next kind of level of Fusion, and we'll look at Fusion Studio, the standalone software that you can access. So very similar. The user interface is the same as the Fusion tab in Resolve, but it's just a total standalone software. So we're going to get into that. So it'll be really exciting. So make sure to join us next week. If you want the reminder, just sign up for the Eventbrite ticket specifically, so you can get the reminder for next week. Don't forget to seek out our library partners and the Digital Arts Workstation. So it will have, all the workstations have Fusion Studio on it. So you can go and book time on the iMacs and work on this as well. So if you have an older computer, or it doesn't have enough RAM, we recommend 32 gigs of RAM to do this kind of visual effects work and video work. And our library partner computers all have that as well. So it's really great. So again, thanks to all our partners in making this project happen: Canada Council for the Arts, our library partners that have the digital arts computers, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. I will see you guys next Saturday for part 2, and we'll go right into Fusion Studio. You can email me at tom@tbmcs.ca for any questions technically or about this workshop, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.